All right, now it's time to get into one of the my favorite chapters and probably one of the most controversial. In my opinion, technology will develop in many different ways, but I feel that we should really focus it in a certain direction. And not many people would agree with my preferred direction, and some people would be pretty critical of me as to why I chose these certain things. But technology, as it's improving every day, cell phones are getting smaller, they're getting smarter, they're developing more computing power, all these different sorts of things that are happening with our technology today. They want to put computers in glasses, they want to put them in watches, they want to put computers in everything, and basically, I'm kind of against it, but for a very specific reason, and it's because I think all our little technologies that we have floating around are very inefficient on their own as separate, and I really think they should all be one sort of thing. To kind of explain what I'm talking about here is, people that have GPSs in their cars, people that have cell phones, people that have laptops, desktops, all of these things in effect could be combined into one thing. And that one thing that I think that it should be combined into is a robot that walks around and with you. And one of the reasons for that is because, for one, like things like your keys or anything like that could all be merged into this one type of technology, because you would never forget your cell phone if it followed you around everywhere. Or you'd never get your laptop stolen from you if it followed you around everywhere. Not that you would never, but it would be a lot less likely. And like cameras and camcorders and stuff like that. That's the other type of things. But yeah, I believe it should be a robot. Basically, it'd be like a personal assistant robot. It would be your phone, it'd be your computer. It would have a little storage area for like an iPad so that it can have like a screen for like a laptop or whatever, and a little keyboard or something, or just a touch keyboard. Anything that you can put in this little thing, it'd be human size, to integrate as much technology as you could. And like I said, that when you're trying to make technology smaller and more portable, there's nothing more portable than something that walks and moves around on its own. And it could serve so many different purposes, just a huge amount of purposes. Like, there's all this technology that they're trying to develop now to make safer cars, make cars drive themselves, or backup cameras, or all this other route info share with other cars and stuff like that. But if you had this robot, it could basically drive you around, when it would be able to have the communication system with you. It could be all that, like I said, combined into one. I know before, in another chapter of this series that I did, the early one, chapter 1, legalization, I promised you that I would have an answer to why it is that I think prostitution should be legalized temporarily, and basically a reason to make it to seem why that would only be temporary to you, and not like a reason why I think it will be this way. And these robots are the reason for that. And I know what you're thinking is like, what? It's like a robot going to give me a hand job or something like that. But basically, what it boils down to is the sex industry, in my opinion, has been kind of moving towards this avenue all along, really. At first, it was blow up dolls, or they had these little, gosh, these, like, I don't want to say cutouts of people, but just, molds, yeah, molds of people, and vibrators and dildos and all these other toys and stuff. And then it's slowly evolved into this doll that just kind of sat there and honestly was really creepy because it was just there. And now this other doll that they created that like talks to you, and it stays warm and can have a conversation with you. I think that's super creepy. But if you're actually able to make it into a functioning robot that can actually walk around, I don't really feel the need that you should make it have conversations with you, besides, asking it questions, and it answering, like looking it up on Google for you. But there's just the pure utility of a machine like this. Like I was saying, that I wanted to get rid of that. And I really think that this is a way to get rid of that, because one of the things I said before is that you're never going to get rid of prostitution because there's always going to be a demand for it. The reason for that demand is because people want to have sex. We're programmed to want to have sex because that's how we reproduce. if we can find an outlet for our sexual frustrations and our sexual energies, then I think that would better our society as a whole. As long as I read a paper, not a paper, it was more like an internet article about this. I'm assuming, yeah, it was a religious based article against robots like these, and they said that people would fall in love with them. Guys wouldn't want to marry women anymore, and women wouldn't get them, and then women would all become lesbians, and then we would never have kids anymore. And it might be, a bit of a slippery slope going on that kind of argument path, but I honestly think it brings up a lot of good points. If you're worried about these robots and people falling in love with them and this and that, then just make it to where they don't do the conversation thing with you. Make it to where they just basically answer the questions that you ask it, and they walk around with you, and that's it. And on the sexual side, this is probably a little bit not perverted, but intense. No, it's probably a little bit more in depth than you wanted to hear. But one of the ways that you could keep male and female sexual relationships intact is by limiting the, I guess, their sexual, not knowledge, but limiting the things that they could do during sex. Obviously, male babies or whatever, when they're born, you'd give them a female robot, and females, when they're born, you'd give them a male robot. And I guess what I'm trying to say is the robots wouldn't be able to go down on you, and they wouldn't be able to like actively engage in having sex with you, but you could position them in any way that you wanted. And in that way, then being with a human person would give you that extra incentive, because they can do those things to make you want to be with a human person also eventually. Yeah, I mean, well, for and also I guess if women had their own robots, then they would get really good at being on top. The same with guys, I guess they would maybe get better at that, because that they'd have the practice. So like I was saying before, the first step would to be legalize prostitution and set up ways to educate those women, protect them, put away the bad people that did harm to them and whatnot. And then hopefully our technology will progress quickly enough to where we can develop these robots, and then the demand would be lower. So not only would these women be, and men, slowly filtering out, getting training and other things and eventually leaving, but these robots would slowly be filtering in. So that would take out that demand for that. And then, I mean, you could still keep it legal, but people would probably not want to go there too much after the robots came out. But one of the benefits of having robots that you can have sex with, that I like to call familiars, is for I think it would greatly discourage people having sex with multiple partners. And sometimes people, they grow up and they have sex with one person their entire life. See, that's beautiful. That's true love and whatnot. But other people don't do that. Some people, gosh, 100 partners, or I don't know. I haven't had that many, obviously, but and STDs. If people reduce the number of people that they had sex with over time, then that would be one very big and easy way to get rid of sexually transmitted diseases. Because if basically you had this outlet for your sexual needs and whatnot, when you go to get into a relationship, that wouldn't be something that weigh on your mind anymore. A lot of frustration that goes along with relationships is, when are we going to have sex, or our sex isn't good, or sex is boring for us now, or just the tension of you haven't had sex yet, or getting into a bad relationship because that person is like really good looking. You want to have sex with them, but you don't really like their personality or something like that. It would really prevent people from not prevent them. It would give them a way out, and hopefully attempt to prevent them from making those bad decisions and getting and spreading STDs and stuff like that. And I honestly think it would really enrich the institute of marriage, because so many people at that point would be more monogamous. Because if you're in a relationship, and she's got a familiar and you've got a familiar, and hey, foursome, there's that, and they're changeable. You can change their faces, their body types, anything like that. So I mean, you would still get the variety that some people say that they crave. That's why they cheated on you or this and that, and then you'd still have your partner that you'd be able to be with. I think that would really help out, keep relationships longer and more secure and whatnot. That's just the sexual relationship side of it. If you want to go into more, I think these machines, not only they'd be your cell phone, your computer, you know, all these other things combined, but they'd also, you'd be able to program to be able to clean your house, like while you're sleeping or taking a shower or whatever. Program them to vacuum, do your laundry, do your dishes, any sort of those tasks that are really tedious that people don't like to do, you know, scrub your shower, whatever. They should be able to be programmed to do those things. And that's another thing that people have problems with in relationships, is people like picking up after each other, or not sharing the chores and stuff like that. And I think these things would really help at that point too, because I mean, not only there's less sexual frustration in a relationship, but also there's not this whole side of cleanliness frustration. You know, you can be with someone who's a fucking slob and you'd never know because they're familiar, cleaned up after them all the time. It'd be beautiful. So there's that, and just countless other functions that they'd be able to perform. Like if you're drunk, they'd be able to drive you home. Instant voice activated interaction, like if you get a text message, you can send a message back via text. If you get a voicemail, you can call somebody back right away, or completely hands-free type of stuff like that. These things could pull you out of a burning building when you pass out. You could program them to go grab a fire extinguisher, any sort of thing like that. And on a different level, one of my other goals, I think I've told you this a lot of times with, you know, legalizing prostitution, drugs, and gambling, is getting rid of a lot of crime. There's, like I said, there's a couple different theories about why crime happens and whatnot. And one of them is, gosh, I think there's like a 3-tier theory where you need a criminal, a victim, and like the absence of a capable guardian, something like that. And I think you guys have all seen iRobot. I have. It's pretty decent because I like robot movies, but those robots are programmed to physically protect people. If every single person had one of these, it would be almost impossible to physically assault someone. So with the economy chapter and all the other reductions in crime chapters, basically the only crime that you would have going on is the only crime left over would be people getting pissed and punching other people or wanting to hurt other people. I don't know why hopefully we wouldn't have that kind of aggression at that point. But even if something like that did happen, someone pulled out a gun or something like that, your familiar could step in front of the bullet. It's a robot. It's not going to be afraid of it. It's not going to do anything of that. And not only could it physically protect you, but like I said, these things would be fully equipped with HD cameras in their eyes, and they would record everything for the entire day. So if someone were to come up to you and assault you, they somehow did it a surprise or something like that, and your familiar wasn't able to protect you that quickly, you know, because it couldn't predict that, or shoot you and it didn't have enough time to get in front of you. Even if that stuff were to happen, it would basically be a 100% conviction rate at that point, because there would be not only that person's familiar was recording it, but so is yours. So you would have at the very least 2 different camera angles to bring to court and show them that that person was the person that shot you. So that person's going to go to jail. I know a lot of you might be a little bit scared about that. It's like, oh, well, this thing's going to record everything of my entire life forever. Like, oh, Big Brother, this and that. And, well, there would be limitations. Yes, it would record everything, but only you would have unbridled access to your video records. And the court would have to subpoena them. Yes, there might be a little bit more leniency with, okay, we found a body in this area, so let's, you know, track the GPS of all the familiars that were in that area during this time frame, you know, time of death, and then they'd be able to narrow it down to just that one person, hopefully, and then, or just look at the recording, because if you're dead, obviously they want to look and see who did that. They could just look at that and then identify the person at that point, and then use both the familiars, you know, subpoena their familiars, and then use the dead person's, or in a coma person, familiars footage on the court case, and you'd still have your protections there at that point. So it wouldn't be just this complete system that it would just watch over you all the time. But other things like graffiti, those kids would have familiars too. So if somebody stumbles across a wall that recently was graffitied and they report it in a timely manner, I mean, you could, like I said, you could do the GPS bunch on that and subpoena just that small time frames amount of video of whoever was walking by at the time. So that's not like private stuff that hopefully you're not really worried about that point. They're not going to subpoena stuff that was you at your house, you know, obviously for graffiti or something like that. And they'd be able to figure those people out, have them paint that up. So, in case you didn't notice, basically that's all crime. And it's all either gone or 100% prosecuted. So, you're welcome. Yeah, there you go. Enjoy.